about money than about salvation or prayer or heaven or anything spiritual. He knew that money was a very real part of people's lives, and that's why he said more about money than about any other subject. Now, money is basically a convenience. That's why it was invented. Smaller communities up to that point were made their exchanges in barter. You would produce too much butter and somebody else would produce too much meat, so you exchanged some of your surplus butter for their surplus meat. And that's how the world was organized for a long time. Money was invented in the eastern part of Turkey, which was then called Asia. And the king who started it all was King Croesus. And he was eventually a very rich man, gone down into history as a rich man. And when you look at geographically, the place where money was invented, don't read too much into this, but the place where money first appeared was right next door to where Satan had his headquarters on earth. If you go to Pergamum, a town in the east of Turkey, and climb the steep hill on the top of which you find the town of Pergamum and the theaters and the libraries of that place, you will find the bare site of Satan's seat. It's gone now. It's in East Berlin. It's in the Pergamon Museum in the East Berlin, and you ought to go and see it. It's an incredible temple to the king of all the gods. And it's in the shape of a huge armchair with steps leading up to it, which are as high as the steps here in this auditorium. Have you seen it, Philip? You were nodding, yes. It really is an impressive thing. And in the middle, when you climbed the steps, there were columns on three sides, like a great armchair, like this chair I'm sitting in. And in the middle was an altar where they kept a fire burning to Zeus day in, day and night. And the top of this hill is about 1,000 feet above the modern town and could be seen for miles. And from the top you can see for miles. And this was where Satan had his headquarters. Satan can't be everywhere. He has his agents everywhere, but that's where he had his headquarters in the days of the New Testament. And when you study the letter to the 7 churches in Revelation, Jesus spoke to Pergamum, the church there, and said, I know where you are, where Satan's seat is. And when you study the other 6 letters, the character of those churches was related to the geographical distance from Satan's headquarters. It's quite fascinating. The 2 nearest churches were both corrupted by Satan from within the church. The next 2 nearest churches were suffering for their faith. The only 2 that Jesus had no criticism of, but they were suffering from pressure from outside the church. The 2 churches furthest away from Satan's headquarters, one had lost its first love and the other had grown cold. So the situation of the churches was directly related to their geographical distance from Satan's headquarters. I don't think Satan's headquarters is there now, and the whole temple was removed by a German archaeologist and rebuilt in Berlin. I found Christians in East Berlin who were praying that it would be given back to the Turks, who believed that some bad influence came to Berlin with it. and it came before both world wars, which was interesting. Anyway, don't read too much into that. I just find it interesting. And I like to share with people what is interesting. But let's get on with the subject. So money was invented